Welcome to Read, Eat, Travel, Repeat, the book club and podcast with your hosts, Sarah, Kit, and Marianne, three friends who talk about all things books, food, and travel. Welcome, readers, eaters, and travelers to Read, Eat, Travel, Repeat, the podcast and book club where books take us beyond the page. I'm Sarah.
I'm Kit.
And I'm Marianne. Today's episode is special. We're going nostalgic. We're talking about the books that built us, the under the covers with a flashlight books.
Those Scholastic Book Fair wish list books, the ones we reread until all the spines cracked. And today our episode will support Dolly Parton's Imagination Library.
The Imagination Library is dedicated to inspiring a love of reading by gifting books free of charge to children from birth to age 5. Through funding shared by Dolly Parton and local community partners in the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, and Republic of Ireland.
Inspired by her father's inability to read and write, Dolly started her Imagination Library in 1995 for the children within her home county. Today, her program spans 5 countries and gifts millions of free books each month to children around the world. And I'm legit getting teary reading about it. That's so cool.
I did not realize that it was so many countries.
I didn't
either. That she's grown to that
US
many.
thing. Yeah. I love that.
I mean, it's just, you see so many horrible people in power in the news every day. And it's just so beautiful to see somebody like giving back. So
Dolly's the best.
I mean, it's Dolly Parton.
Yes.
She's got, it's not just her songs. Like she's got,
Yeah.
if you've been down to Gatlinburg, Sevierville, where
Haven't.
she's from, everything.
wanna
Like
go.
she's got Dollywood. There is Dixie Stampede. Like she owns
Right.
various shows. And so she's got all this money. And I love that she puts a ton into the community.
yeah, absolutely.
A ton, even down there into Sevierville. Everything is Dolly. She just gives back. She's an amazing, amazing person.
Yes.
Yeah, I love Dolly Parton. She's the best.
Okay, so we're starting with a classic question. What kind of reader were you as a kid, Kit?
I was like, I don't want to say mood reader necessarily, but I was like a hyper fixation reader where like once I found something I liked, I read it till it fell apart and I would read it in the morning. I'd read it in the car. I'd read it under the covers with a flashlight. I'd put, by the time I was a little bit older, I would start putting the books I wanted to read inside of the required reading by my teachers. So like if my ELA teacher was like, we're reading, whatever, 7th grade reading list book we had back then, I would put A Wrinkle in Time inside of it and like read because once I found a title I loved or a series I loved, that's all I wanted. Like I was going to read it till there was no more to read. And then I would switch to something else. Like the Babysitter's Club books. When I started like collecting books, I had every single one. All lined up in order. I can like picture it. I had like this little shelf under my window. All the way across. All the Babysitter's Club books. And then I moved on to horror and like R.L. Stein. And I had every book that R.L. Stein read or wrote. I was like an obsessive kind of reader when I was the kid. And the same with like picture books. I would read the same one just over and over and over again. And that was the book. How about you, Sarah?
I was definitely from the young age, anything and everything reader. Marianne, like you wrote below me, but the whole cereal boxes, I was like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
You read I would read the cereal, even though I read it yesterday, I would read it again in the morning, like constantly. Someone gave me a box of old horse books, like all those the Margaret Henry ones, but also some other, I'm trying to think, random ones that are like from the 40s and 50s. I still own them. I read them over and over again, cover to cover. They were like my prized possession. And I was a Scholastic Book Fair kid too, and not the one that wanted the pens and the fancy stuff. I actually wanted the books. And I would go through, even still when I like see one, I'm like,
I was going to say, like when your kids had Scholastic Book Fairs, did you would go in and be like, one for me, one for you.
Maybe I should buy this one too, I was definitely the kid reading under the covers with a flashlight. I can distinctly remember that when I couldn't put a book down. I loved going to the library, even in high school when they were like, we have to go to the media center. And I'm like, okay, sweet. I'm going to get another book or so. So I almost wish I remember more of the books I read as a kid. I just know I read a lot of them when I was like a teenager. So, Marianne, how about you?
That's the same thing for me. It's like I know I read all the time, but I'm just trying to remember what exactly I read. I know, I would read cereal boxes, I'd read toothpaste tubes,
Mhm.
anything
Yep.
constantly I had to
Yep.
read. And my mom was a big reader, so I know I got that from her, and she would read to me when I was when I was younger, and I still could like picture the scholastic papers like
Yes.
uh on the like the little ledge for the chalkboard, that little ledge, and they'd be all lined up there, and that was
Mhm.
a huge thing.
Yep.
And I loved also getting some of the weird little like facts and figures kind of things. I still remember 101 tips for teens, and it had like all
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
funky little tips for, to get through your teenage years and stuff like that. So I loved reading about places that we went to. So that was an obsession for me way back then. And we'll talk about that more when we get to the
Yeah.
like the our favorite books. But yeah, I loved it when I read about someplace we were going to or we had been to and making that connection because we traveled a lot as a kid too. And so I love making that connection between places and my
Mhm.
Mhm.
books that I was reading.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Now that you're like thinking back about what kind of reader you were, the next logical question is what book or series was your favorite? What were the books that you read over and over and over again? Sarah.
Okay. I had 3 favorite books as a child, and I still own one of them, at least. I brought it to show. I will take pictures.
I brought a whole pile.
I know. And I had to explain this one to people. A lot of people did not know this one. It's a Mercer Mayer. One
Okay.
monster after another.
oh, I've seen.
It's
I
like
love
falling
those
apart.
books.
I remember I
Yeah.
looked and looked and I was like, "Oh my god, I found it in my house somewhere."
Yes.
Um, I found when I was looking at books, I was really drawn to books with amazing illustrations.
Mhm.
So this one, I mean, it's typical Mercer Mayer, and it's the story of a girl who writes a letter to her friend and mails it, but all these monsters keep stealing it, and then they steal it from each other. But like the illustrations,
I love
they're
the Mercer Mayer books.
gorgeous, gorgeous. And
I forgot.
I
Yeah.
remember looking at it and looking at every detail. Like this one, she's in the sea and there's a fish here and there's men in a boat up here and the cloud and I just like
Mhm.
the detail of it. Same thing with my other favorite was called Never Talk to Strangers by Irma Joyce. I looked it up on Amazon because I was trying to find the pictures. Again, the illustrations are stunningly beautiful
Yeah.
and very detailed. So I remember as a kid reading and then just looking at the detail of the pictures.
Mhm.
And then Pokey Little Puppy was like my favorite as a
Yeah.
kid
Yeah.
because I had a little stuffed puppy that
Yeah.
I called him Pokey. So, and then I grew into, I don't know if you guys ever read, do you ever read serendipity books?
Think so.
I've had a few
It
people that
sounded
have
familiar, and I was
said,
like, "Ooh, yeah,
like
Flutterby." I
these,
remember it.
these
Yes.
little serendipity.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. They're like
The
animal books. And so they're like a decent amount of reading, but also lots of great pictures. And my dad, I have them all now because my dad is like, "I'm gonna get rid of them," and I go, "No, you're not.
No, you're
You're
not.
gonna give them all to
No, you're
me."
not. You're gonna send them here.
Yep. And I had, my other prized collection. I have this thin books of fairy tales. I just looked them up on Amazon. They were written in 1932. This packet
Wow.
was from,
Oh, yeah.
and this was my prized possession, Little Black Sambo.
Golly.
But as a kid, when I was reading it, I did not understand. My mom told me this is very racist. Take care of this book because it's banned. Like you're not going to find a lot of
Yeah.
prints. And I remember reading it going, I don't understand what's so bad. Is it because the tigers turned to butter? Like it was like
Yeah.
little
You're
kid.
like,
Is it
yeah,
because they
yeah.
took all the clothes from the little boy? No, it's because the names were racist. I had no
Right.
clue. So it's just kind of interesting to me that I didn't
Yeah.
look at that as racist or whatever.
Yeah.
So I went through those like kind of picture books and then Nancy Drew. Love Nancy Drew. The entire Black Stallion series by Walter Farley. Being a horse girl, loved all of them. And then, of course, that grew into Babysitter's Club, which grew into Sweet Valley High. And
Yeah.
then Judy Devereaux. You see where my romance kind of.
Uh-huh.
And then it's funny, I remember, like you said, Marianne, you sure you read Jaws, but you can't remember. We were at my godparents' cottage and I hadn't brought a book for whatever. I was still in middle school, hadn't brought a book. And they had a bunch of books there. And I was like, oh, I'm going to read this. And I loved it. I remember reading it, and then I started like Michael Crichton, and then I read all the Michael Crichton books and just I look now, it's like crazy things. I read crazy things in high school. I started to
Yeah.
think more. I read Gone with the Wind, was one of
Yeah.
my favorites.
Yes.
I also read a Grace Kelly biography in 10th grade because
Wow.
I was obsessed with Grace Kelly.
Mhm.
I just thought she was so beautiful. So those are the only ones I remember reading other than for school, but in terms of on my own. But yeah, I remember trying to get my kids to read Babysitter's Club and they weren't the same. They wanted
It's
the
not
graphic
well,
novel
but I
one.
will tell you, yeah. So I did a lesson because our kids were when I was teaching elementary school library, our kids were like overwhelmingly taking graphic novels at all times,
Yeah.
which I don't necessarily have anything
Right.
against graphic novels, but our selection was only
Yeah.
so big. So there's like
Right.
not enough for everyone. So I ended up doing a big display and a huge lesson about, we called it a genre scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
We're like, if you like this graphic novel, try this novel.
Yeah.
And it actually went over pretty good. So I ended up, I don't like doing any kind of like borrow limit,
Yeah.
but especially since a lot of times
You're kinda like
people will ask like, well, I don't like them to read that. So that's why I want
Yeah.
to borrow limit. But I explained to the kids, you can read as many graphic novels as you want,
Yeah.
but you can only take one at a time because I
Yeah.
don't have enough for everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't because I don't value there. I just don't. The collection was, I was like 20 books deep when I got there.
My
We were up to like
gosh.
150 when I left. But I was like, there isn't enough. Like, there's
Yeah.
only so many books
We're the same at
we
our
had.
school. Kids wanna read
Yeah.
that like crazy.
And they're so good. I just had to like,
Fun side, because I was looking it up, Sweet Valley High is on
Yeah.
Kindle Unlimited.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm like,
yeah.
"Oh, I might have to start
I might have to
rereading
go,
it." I'll
"What?
probably read it and be like, "What in the hell was I
This is
thinking?
so bad."
This
Yeah.
is so awful." I also love Judy Blume. How did I not mention Where Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret was like life-changing for me, like that. Blubber, Tales of the 4th Grade, Nothing.
I love Tales, but I know I read Tales of First Grade Nothing as a mom, not as a kid.
Yeah.
I
It
wonder what
came
year
out
that
like
came
in the
out.
'80s. How could I forget too? Ramona. That was the series I read first, probably. My first chapter book series was Ramona. I loved those books.
Junie
What
B.
do you
Jones.
I don't love Judy B. Jones.
I loved him when I was little, but only for like the tiniest window of time.
Yeah.
And then I like moved on to other things.
The English teacher in me struggles. I'm like, I don't want my kid learning that, how to talk like baby talk.
Nah, fair. Yeah.
My kids love Junie B.
Yeah, my girls did too. And I was always like, do you have to read Judy B. Jones?
But yeah, have to.
Hey, anything that they'll read, that's what I say.
100%.
All right, Marianne, do you want to go?
Okay, so just trying to remember what the books were that I read. But I know my mom was a real big fan of Little Women, so I read Little Women and all the Louisa May Alcott books, and I think that's where a big part of where like my love of history and historical fiction comes from, because I
Mhm.
would read those books and not, nowadays we're so spoiled with Google. If you don't understand a term,
Yeah.
you can look it up, and there's still some things I would see in there like I had no
I
idea
don't
what
know
they were
this.
talking about.
Mhm.
But then when I look back at them, I mean, that's the funny part is that Eight Cousins and Rose and Bloom was my favorite two Louisa May Alcott books.
Mhm.
There's like a duology. And in the second book, she marries her cousin, her first cousin.
Which,
And
I
it's
mean,
like,
it happened.
They did.
I look back and I'm like,
It's
what
a
the
thing.
heck? I know. And then I know we had this children's encyclopedia, and it had one of the volumes had all like short stories. And there was one about the Little Red Lighthouse under the George Washington Bridge that
Okay.
connects New
Oh,
York and
yeah.
New Jersey.
Mhm.
And we lived in Brooklyn, and my aunt lived in New Jersey. So anytime we went to visit her, it was like so exciting to see the little. I
Mhm.
mean, it really was a little red lighthouse down there. And also, I also love the Misty of Chincoteague,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and we used to vacation in Chincoteague, and so I think that's where I started my obsession with visiting places I read about.
Yeah.
And then then as I got older, I know I read just like, and remember, like you said, reading Jaws, and I'm fairly certain I'm a vegetarian because I was reading. I was like 15. And my mom used to work the night shift. She was a nurse, and she'd work like the 3 to 11 shift, and my dad would cook dinner. And I could picture it as clear as could be. I was like 14 or 15. I was reading Alive about the Andes plane
Mhm.
crash.
Yeah.
and my dad started cooking hamburgers.
Oh,
You're like,
yeah.
nope. No, thank you.
And that's like a core memory that I can remember exactly where I was in our
Mm-mm.
living
That
room
sounds
up in
awful.
Maryland.
Yeah. It's
And
a
I feel like
formative
that
moment.
subconsciously made me go, ooh,
You're like, oh, that's
I don't
neat.
think so. Yeah. So, I mean, I stopped eating red meat like a year and a half later. So,
Yeah.
You're like, that's it
but
for
yeah,
me.
so it's funny how the books from our childhood influence us still today.
Trauma.
So
Yeah.
I know, right?
Book related trauma.
Oh my gosh.
So how about you, Kit?
So my parents read to like my sister and I all the time. So I was trying to think of which picture books, and it was hard to like remember until Sarah started talking. And then I was
I
like,
know.
oh my God. And it's not like duplicate books. Like it's not, but like something about the way
It
you were
just
talking about
reminds
your
you of
books. I was like,
yeah.
oh my God. So one of the books that was my favorite is the one I was just trying to find on my shelf was called The Girl Who Loved Wild Horses by Paul Goebel. And the art, he has so many books and the artwork is so beautiful. And there's paint horses and Appaloosas in there. And that's all I ever wanted as a kid. And then obviously I did get a couple paint horses eventually. But I would read those books, and he had several books, and they were all Native American stories and mythology. And I was obsessed with that book, The Girl Who Loved Wild Horses. I have multiple copies. I don't know where they are in this house, but anytime I'm in a library, I always have my must buy books that go immediately into the library.
Yep.
That's one of them. And then when I get into like middle grade, it's always Elizabeth Yulberg's like Shelby Holmes
Yep.
books
Yep.
and Lisa Schroeder's books. All of our authors that we worked with when we
Yep.
were part of Twilight Moms and Eve's Fan Garden. But Paul Goebel's books are always my ones that go into the library for picture books, or if we have a like world cultures section, which we had at my last library, they went in the Native American stories section. They're so, so good. And then the other one who writes really good, he's one book that I don't love, but he has lots of books that I do love, is Joseph Bruchac. That one I was able to find. And it also has like super
Ah.
cool. The Girl Who Helped the Thunder is like a phenomenal one. And this is all different folk tales from different like Native American nations. And each one has like artwork that goes with that culture. And when we started talking about, you know, did the books you read when you were little inform who you became later? Absolutely 100%.
Yeah.
Because I graduated from those books to there was a series of books, and I think the author's last name was Thomasina. I don't have any of these books anymore because they were just like I read them till they fell apart. But that you could buy them at all the national park gift stores.
Cool.
Okay. I have a bunch of
And
those for my kids.
I think it's let me see if there was a series of books by this author. I'll have to like think about it. If you do,
Is
it
it
might
like
not be Thomasina.
like we have about salamanders
No, it was
who
like
pooped in the park?
no. They were early readers, so they were chapter
Oh,
books.
okay.
It's not Tommy DiPaolo, is it?
No. Nope.
Okay.
It's if I can find it, I'll keep Googling around to see if I can find it.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I think I'm gonna be honest with you, I think they were discontinued because I don't know that they were super accurate. I'm not as an adult, I was like, oh, are these
Yeah.
is this person Native American? Or just did some research? But when I was a kid, every time we went on a road trip in the summer, we would always go to the national parks. And I would get one of these books and I would read it like over and over and over again in the car as we drove. And then obviously I went on to get a degree in Native American studies. So you can kind of like track this
Right.
little story based on the picture books that I read when I was super little. And then I helped write some of the curriculum for the different districts I was in to make sure that we're teaching Native American
Yeah.
stories appropriately. But then the other books, and I was just watching TikTok where there's this girl who's watching all of the Disney specials and movies like in order.
my
And she
gosh.
got a hold of Song of the South.
Oh,
And there's obviously things that are problematic about it, looking at it through the lens of 2026.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she made the point that at the time it was like kind of groundbreaking to have the young boy holding Uncle Remus's hand. Like
Oh,
that was
yeah.
not done at that time.
Mhm.
And but I really remember my parents reading all the Uncle Remus stories. We had the big collection and we read all of those. And again, you look back and you're like, slightly problematic. I don't really remember watching the movie, but when I was watching this little TikTok video, she was like, Uncle Remus and through the characters is teaching lessons that kids actually do, like how to be brave, how to be kind,
Yeah.
how to be helpful. And I remember my dad reading me those books and for those messages, like Uncle Remus is imparting these messages. And again, like as an adult, you look back and you're like, oh, there's a lot of problematic stuff happening in this book. But for the time,
Well,
was
like you
doing
said,
something
when
that
you read
like
it as a child,
yeah,
you weren't like, "Oh,
right,
black
Right.
people are
like,
black." It didn't make you like
that's
like
not
I
what
had
you were
no
taking out
clue
of it.
what
Yeah,
was racist about it. I did not
right.
understand
I
that
didn't I didn't get it at
the
all as a kid. I
drawings
was
in my
just
book
like,
Yeah.
were
"Huh."
yeah.
Yeah.
They were
Well, in all
inappropriate.
probability, I'm thinking, especially for a movie, probably like the way he spoke and like the stereotypical, I don't know how to say it right, but that's probably the bigger problem more than the
Yeah.
fact that he was teaching lessons. It
Yeah.
was just like the
Yeah.
way
Correct.
he
Yeah.
was portrayed.
Yes.
And then, like, so what you take out of it is kind of what I was getting out of it was like all these
Yeah.
lessons that
Yeah.
Right.
you should learn.
Right.
Mhm.
And then same as Sarah, I read all the Babysitters Club. I was super into scary like books and movies for a good
Stein.
R.L.
Mhm.
Stein, all the Goosebumps.
Yeah.
And then I pulled a couple books. The series I had like the most books of that I just destroyed repeatedly. Did you guys have they were the classics, the great illustrated classics? I
I feel
had
like I had a few of them.
I had all of them, the whole series. And like the illustrations from the Three
Yep.
Musketeers, but I have
Yep.
I still have a bunch. I have Robin Hood, Around the World in 80 Days, Treasure Island. I wore out my copy of Little Woman, like destroyed that book. I read it so much. And I like wanted to be Joe so bad. And then I still have all these books are like falling apart, but like they're like the spines are all cracked and gross.
Mhm.
But like I read all of the Wrinkle in Time books, all of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, like the Chronicles of Narnia. And then I would pick up just like the randomest books. Like this book was my favorite book. Buffalo
Yeah.
Brenda.
Scholastic.
Like there's a scholastic book.
Yep.
Buffalo Brenda. I thought I wanted to be just like Brenda Tuna because she was like so cool and so like didn't care what anyone thought. And then this one I read constantly. Mandy by Julie Edwards, which is actually Julie Andrews. So Mary Poppins wrote it. And I just love this book, but it is, I don't know if either of you guys have read it. It's very similar to The Secret Garden, which was another book and movie
Okay.
that I was obsessed with. I would
Yeah.
watch that Secret Garden movie. And I remember thinking that I was like, everyone's read The Secret Garden, but not everybody knows Mandy. Like, I remember feeling like I was part of like some secret
Woohoo,
club.
something special.
Everybody knows about The Secret Garden, but not everyone has had the good fortune of reading Mandy by Mary Poppins. I remember that being like a very big deal in my life.
Oh my gosh.
And then I think like similar to what you were saying, I jumped right to books that were like so inappropriate for my age. Like I picked up the Clan of the Cave Bear series when I was 12. And that's how I learned all about the birds and the bees. With Ayla and Jondalar just getting it on in the middle of the prairie. Like I was reading books that were like so inappropriate to be reading.
But there wasn't
And then
a
I
lot
would
of
go
YA.
back and forth. Yeah, I would go back
mean,
and
like-
forth between like I read all of Shakespeare's stuff. Like I had like a huge collection of Shakespeare. And I would read it and then I'd be like, and now for A Wrinkle in Time. Like I was
Yeah.
bouncing back and forth wildly between books that
Right.
were like
And
for
you never
adults
do that
and
now.
for never
No,
now.
never.
And for but now there's like all the like
Hey, we had like
appropriate
the
books
young.
in the middle.
There was a super. The YA books were very young. They were Wrinkle in
Very
Time. They
young.
were The Giver.
Yes.
I think Laurie Hall Sanderson's Speak might have come out when I was in high school. Yeah, then it jumps right to like Michael Crichton. Where now the YA books are there's a little better about.
Yeah,
Okay, we're going to
yeah,
talk
yeah.
about more adult things, but maybe in a closed door way.
Right.
Yes.
Maybe in a way
And
with true teenagers instead of going from like 12-year-olds to 25-year-olds.
Right.
Yes.
So we didn't
I think
have.
that's-
I mean, there weren't. To go from Sweet Valley High to like Judy Devereaux, which was like bodice ripping.
Bodice ripping.
God, my friend Barbara and I, we used to read the old Barbara
Harlequin.
Cartland.
Yes.
Yes, the old Barbara Cartland romances. Yes.
Yes, I think I read some of hers too.
Like I spent more time just in our little local library,
Mhm.
just like pulling books off the shelf that I shouldn't like. Obviously, like kind of the role of the librarian is to just be like, yes, read whatever you would like.
Yeah.
Like you're not supposed to like, but maybe you should steer little 11-year-old me back to the children's department
Yeah.
as opposed to letting me like just go crazy
Nah, that's
in
too easy,
whatever
right?
section like caught my eye. I was reading like Stephen King,
Mhm.
and I was like terrifying myself on
I remember reading like
the
The
regular.
Exorcist and
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
like when I was a
like,
teenager and what was the other one? Rosemary's Baby. I'm trying to think
yes,
of
V.C. Andrews, Flowers in the Attic. Is
yeah,
that the
dude,
one?
yep, that's
With
the
the
one
brother
where
and
the, like the
sister?
incest.
That was considered YA, and the brother and the
We
sister, like,
we
got it on in the
passed that.
attic?
It was in our elementary school
Yeah.
library. We
Yeah.
passed it around in like, well, so we had an upper elementary, so it was like 4th and 5th grade. We
Okay.
passed it around with like
Yeah.
the pages earmarked. We got it
Yeah.
out
My
of the
God.
school library.
Yeah.
And we were like, here's the bad parts.
Yeah.
Like that was I think a formative moment for everyone.
Yeah,
'Cause we were
V.C.
like, oh
Andrews,
my
she,
God,
like,
yeah.
wrote that was risque for us.
That was
And
great. I mean, it's still like kind of
Mhm.
crazy,
I
but
know. Like, to think that that was considered YA
yeah.
is yeah. But I even think of the books I read in high school. I mean, in addition to Shakespeare, I truly read Silas Marner in high school.
Mhm.
We read Mayor of Casterbridge. I remember reading Julius Caesar. I don't remember reading Romeo and Juliet. I remember reading Julius Caesar. And then we read in senior English, we read Johnny Got His Gun, which was the story
I
of
read that in
about
college.
a boy. Yeah, I read that in high
Yeah.
school. The boy or the guy who was
Interesting.
lost his arms and his legs in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
his couldn't speak, so he literally was like stuck in himself.
yeah. I read that.
Tremaine, is that who wrote that? Johnny Tremaine, maybe, or something was his name.
Maybe.
Yeah, I was like, whoa.
I read that in like a college
Yeah.
literature class.
So now I feel like when my students complain, I want to be like, dude, y'all reading
Right.
Hunger Games in ninth
Yeah,
grade
seriously.
now.
Let me tell you what we used to
Yeah.
read.
Let me tell you what I used to read in high school.
Yeah, we did I had probably my best ELA class I ever had. Oh my God, what was his name? Mr. Card, Herm Card. Shout out if you happen to find this podcast. He did 7th and 8th grade ELA. And one year we only did Bob Dylan songs.
Ooh.
Wow.
That was
That's
our
fun.
Love it.
entire, we learned everything through the lens of Bob Dylan songs. And I always forget which order it went in, like which was 7th
Mhm.
and which was 8th. And then the other year, we only did Twilight Zone. And then we read short stories that were like along the same vein. And then
Yeah.
we learned everything through the lens of the Twilight Zone. And it was like,
that would be so cool.
I can't tell you anything that I learned in high school ELA. I know I had
Mhm.
Penelope Anderson the whole time.
Mhm.
And I know she yelled at me a lot for not reading books that were like at my reading level. Like anytime we had free read books, I was like, wind in the
Yeah.
door. Like, give me something that I love instead of picking something that'll challenge me. And I hated it. Hated reading for like a good chunk of time, at least reading in school, because everything had to like challenge you and make you grow. And I
Yeah.
was like, I just want to read for fun.
Right.
But 7th and 8th grade ELA was banging. And you could pick whatever you wanted for free read, and he would like quiz you with
Mhm.
like silly, funny questions, like to make you think instead of just being like, what's this about? But we did a
That's
lot of Bob
awesome.
Dylan and the Twilight Zone. He was
That's
a really
cool
good
about
teacher.
with Bob Dylan too. So.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, that's some good literature right there.
One
Yeah.
thing I will add that I was thinking about was kind of funny is my parents used to read me a book called Timothy Tiger and the Banyan Tree. Banyan Tree. I don't know
Okay.
how you're
I've
supposed
heard
to
of
say
that,
it.
I think.
I think I've heard of that too.
It's like 900 years old. I have
Yeah.
copies that I bought on eBay for my kids. And apparently, my parents would purposely mispronounce Banyan instead of Banyan just
Yeah.
so that I would correct them. And every night they'd say it differently. And I guess that's where my tendency now to correct people when they
Mhm.
mispronounce things comes
Mhm. You're
from.
like
'Cause one of my
instilled at a young age.
one of my coworkers and I were practically getting in a fist fight at a meeting a couple weeks ago because I kept correcting her every time she said something wrong, and she's like, "Shut up, Hipple." So anyhow,
You're
so
like,
that's
"Sorry."
sorry. It comes from Timothy Piker and the banyan
Yeah.
tree, whatever you said, whatever kind of
Like,
tree.
my parents made me
Yes. Okay,
into this
so
person.
what we're gonna talk about now
Let's
are
talk about our, books that we have read to our
We
own
like to
children
read
or taught
aloud.
hundreds of other children.
Yes.
Books we love reading out loud to others.
So books that
okay.
we like to read aloud to our kids or millions of other kids. I love doing read alouds. It's my favorite. I work with 18 to 20-year-olds, and on the regular, we have a little library in our building. And on the regular, a kid will be like, "Will you read this to us?" And I go like full librarian performance. Like I've got the book up. I'm like, and it's always we've got a whole collection of little golden books. So it's always like a book like we read, like Pokey Little Puppies in there. I read a book the other day called I'm a Truck. Hilarious. I had never read it before, but it starts with like, "Howdy, I'm a truck." I had so much fun reading this book because you have to do like all like that. Like it
Yep,
was
yep.
so much fun. I love a read aloud. The one I read the most to my own kid was Going on a Bear Hunt.
Mhm.
Oh,
We're
okay.
going on a
And
bear hunt.
it doesn't have a cover anymore because
Oh,
I'm not a huge fan of covers on picture books because it makes it really hard to like
Hold it and
hold it
yeah, yeah,
open.
yeah.
ugh.
You can tell it's like falling apart at the
Uh-huh.
seams. We read it so much. But that's the one I read the most, and I always read it in the library because you can do so many activities with it. Like when we do Going on a Bear Hunt, I do it at the beginning of the year to teach them about the different sections of the library. So we go on a bear hunt and there's like a little
In the
bear in each
library.
section. And we like
Yeah.
Aw.
tramp around the library and like can't go over it, gotta go through it. And I'd put like obstacles up. Like you gotta go over these
Oh
little
my
steps and
gosh.
like go through. So that's one of my all-time favorites to read aloud. And then I like the Day the Crayons Quit is always a good one. Dragons Love Tacos. Like I have a
Yep.
lot of like newer picture books that are I love doing read alouds to little kids because they get so into it. But my favorite read aloud, which came out too recently to read to my own kid, but I donated a lot of books to my school library. This one stayed with me. Is The Serious Goose by Jimmy Kimmel. It is hilarious because, and this one's signed.
Nice.
That's
But
cool.
the whole thing is about like this is a serious goose. And the whole book is about how he can't laugh. You can't make him laugh. You can't even try to make him laugh. And then it's got all sorts of jokes in it, like not even if you put a chicken on his head. And then there's like a picture of a chicken on his head, and the kids
So kids
lose
think
their
it's hilarious.
ever loving minds.
Love it.
But it has where you have to make the goose try and laugh, and it has a mirror in it.
Aw.
Here you guys all
That's
are.
so cute.
So you can like hold it up to the kids and they all have to make their silliest face.
Face to try to get the what a
Yeah,
cute idea.
it's hilarious. That's my like go-to if I'm like asked to do a read aloud somewhere. I go right
Yeah.
to this like because it's so quick and easy and fun.
Mm-hmm.
But even when I was teaching middle school, we did a ton of read alouds. We read aloud The Hate You Give, which we were in middle school. We did a whole school read. So every single kid in the school got a copy. Every single kid got to read it.
That's cool.
And the conversations that you can pull out of kids when you're doing a read aloud
Mm-hmm.
are huge. Obviously, you guys know. I always feel like sometimes other teachers will be like, read alouds are for little kids. And I'm like, no.
No.
Let them cuddle up and sit on the floor and get cozy, like pull the
Yep.
bean bags to the front.
They love it.
They love it. Like, you don't have to stop doing read alouds when you hit middle school. Like, my kids, I do read alouds for my adults during lunch. So they sit and eat their food and we turn the lights down and I put on a whole presentation and it's fun to be read to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we forget sometimes that it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's another, and instead of being on our phones, because they'll be on their phones the whole time if you let them. But the minute you pull a story out and you're like, cozy up, let's do this thing, they buy right
Mhm.
in.
Yep.
Even with picture books. And you know, sometimes they're like picture books are for babies. No, they're not.
No, not always.
There's some amazingly beautiful
Uh-huh.
picture books that are
Uh-huh.
geared towards adults
Yep.
that we kind of miss out on.
Yeah.
How about you, Sarah?
Yeah, I've used, speaking of children's books with older kids, there's a beautiful book called The Other Side by Jacqueline Woodson that I have used many times in class. It literally is a story about race. And again, the illustrations are beautiful. And when you read it to high schoolers, they're like, oh, because these two kids are separated by a fence. One side, one girl is black, one girl is white, and they're sitting on the other side of the fence. And by the end, they're like, come sit on the fence with me. And they sit there. And then the girl says, what if one day we took this fence down? And it's like little kids, it would go right over their head. But young adults, they're like, huh, I know what that means.
Yeah, they
I
think
know
about
what
it.
that metaphorical fence is. So yeah, love that. I just finished Great Gatsby today aloud to my students. So I love, yeah, I love reading out loud, things like that. With my own children, we had 3 books that were hits in our house. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. And I remember
Yes.
my
Yes.
oldest actually memorized it because when she was like 3, I caught her reading to the youngest, but she
Mhm.
wasn't reading. She just had it by
Well,
memory and she did the whole page and then flipped it. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's reading. And then I
yeah.
realized, no, she just has it
She's just
memorized
repeating
and
it.
she
Yeah.
knows where it ends and when to flip the page. And I just remember that was one she read to her sister. Another silly one, Princess Victoria and the Pea, Pamela Duncan and Edwards. And everything in the book started with a P. So I had a
Really?
voice. I would read
Okay.
like this, Princess Pigtoria. Like, and she orders pizza one day with pepperoni and pineapple. And like, I would like exaggerate the piece and it would
Yeah.
drive my girls crazy. Like, Mom, stop reading it like that. And I go, I
You're like,
can't.
no,
Like,
can't. This
the
book
voice
demands
is
it.
coming out. But it was super cute too. Just her name was Princess Pigtoria. And then the fact that like everyone's name started with a P,
Yeah.
everything they talked about, the pea in the bed and all that. Everything was P, the letter P. And then of course where the wild things are. Same
Mhm.
thing. I would always they gnashed their terrible teeth and I'd be like,
Yeah.
you know, what mom doesn't do that. So and then I was trying to think too, my kids had a lot of books that they loved that I didn't read to them necessarily. The Pinkalicious books.
Yeah.
I think we own every single one of them. Were pretty funny. And then trying to think, oh, we were really into Jake and the Neverland Pirates for a while.
Mhm.
So even with girls, they loved
Yeah.
him. So those kind of Disney books were great. My
Mhm.
oldest got a book from my aunt in California, one of those Hallmark princess books where you can record yourself reading.
Yeah.
And she got it for
Yeah. Yeah.
Kara when she was little, just to say, then I can always read you a book when I'm not by you.
Aw,
And I was like,
love that.
oh, it's my aunt. I love my aunt.
Yeah.
So yeah, Marianne, how about you?
Okay, so I mean, some of the books I liked reading to my kids. I remember my parents reading "Are You My Mother" by P.D. Eastman, where the baby bird falls out of his nest and he goes looking for his
Yeah.
mother, and he walks up to like a big, it's
Mhm.
not a bulldozer. What is that thing that but he says, and the big thing just said snort, and I would make
You gotta
the
make
most
the noises. Yeah,
obnoxious
you have
sound, and my
to.
kids would laugh so hard. I love that. I loved One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish,
Mhm.
Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, Good Night Moon, Amelia Bedelia. I loved
Oh,
Amelia
yeah.
Bedelia. Like when somebody asked her to draw the curtains and she gets out a drawing
And
pad and a
draws.
pencil and draws them. I love that. My kids and I would laugh so much. I'm not a big fan of like reading chapter books. I didn't mind reading like picture books to
Mhm,
my kids.
mhm.
Mhm.
I did not like reading chapter books out loud at all, but
I never did
yeah,
that either. They
Not
started
to my
yeah,
reading on
kids.
their
To the
own by the
library
time
I
they
yeah.
did.
wanted
Yeah.
chapter books, yeah.
Yeah. One of my very favorite books, and this is a book I usually give if I go like to a baby shower and they ask you to bring a book. It's called "I Love You as Much" by Laura Krass Melmed and Henri Sorensen. And it goes through a series of animals. So, like, said the baby cow to its mother, blah, 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 blah. And then the very end, it says, and I remember this off the top of my head. I didn't have to even like
Wow.
look
Look
for
it
it.
up.
So it says, "Sleep, child of mine, while the stars shine above. I love you as much as a mother can
I
love."
remember that book.
And I still get teary. Just
I know.
I have copies here that I keep meaning to give my kids for Christmas, and I forget to
Mhm.
give them to them. But I have them.
All right. So one last final question because we talked about a lot of books, but are there any other books that we haven't mentioned or that you just want to say more about them because they stuck with you for for your entire life until now. Sarah?
I'd say as far as children's books go,
Yes.
is Alice in Wonderland. I have a huge collection of Alice in Wonderland paraphernalia, and not just Disney. I actually prefer the original, the John Tenniel drawings. I love collecting stuff that has his drawings on them. I have several versions of the book. So Alice in Wonderland for sure. Marianne, what about you?
Misty at Chincoteague. I think I touched on it earlier, but just thinking about what my family used to go. We used to go camping, and we used to camp in Chincoteague and go over to Assateague, see all the wild horses.
So jealous.
And I want to go back there so badly. I went one time about 25 years ago. It was a long time ago. Not quite 25 years ago, but only got to go back for like a couple of hours. Literally cried as I drove over the bridge into Chincoteague because I hadn't been there since I was a teenager. And my kids were like laughing at me because I was crying. Like they thought, Mom, you are so weird. But
Right.
I just love that whole book. And I think that's really where like my love of going places that I've read about really kind of started. Like seeing the wild horses that I'd read about, and it just inspired me to always want to go visit the places I've read about.
Yeah. It's perfect.
It sounds like an amazing read, eat, travel, repeat.
It does.
Oh, adventure,
Kind
yeah.
of little,
I feel
like
like
a live podcast.
yes.
Yes.
Because
From Chincoteague.
Kit and I are horse people.
Yeah.
And you love I feel like this is like might be our first
That might be like our
destination
first,
trip.
Yes. Our really, really get that travel piece in.
Yeah.
Yes, for
I
sure.
agree.
Imagine if we could just travel around
Oh,
and
gosh.
podcast from all the places.
Yeah.
Someone sponsor us.
Yep. Yep.
Someone sponsor us to go travel from location to location and podcast live.
I would happily do
Absolutely.
that.
We will
Happily do
visit
that.
all the local bookstores.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Sounds like the dream job, honestly.
All right.
So
Okay,
how
what
about you,
about-
Kit? What book have we
I-
not touched on?
Forgot until Sarah just brought it up a few minutes ago. Pippi Longstocking.
Oh my gosh.
I
yes.
was obsessed. I used to wear my hair in braided pigtails every day.
Did you want red
And
hair? Because I wanted red hair.
I
too.
really
Mhm.
wanted red. And
Yep.
you know what I wanted more than red hair was the freckles.
Yeah.
She had like the great freckles.
Yes.
But the horse didn't have a name, I don't think. The horse was just like her horse. And she could lift him with one hand because
Yes.
she was so strong.
Yes.
But her pet monkey, Mr. Neil,
oh yeah.
I like loved that she would just be like, "Come on, Mr. Neil," and he would just like do whatever. But do you remember the it had to be like 87, 88 movie, the Pippi Longstocking movie? I watched that
Yeah.
so many times, and I so wanted to go to Villa Villacula.
Yeah.
Like I was like where she was from. Like her crazy cool house that she lived in all by herself with her Appaloosa horse and Mr. Nielsen. I loved Pippi Longstocking.
Yeah. Like
And I thought it would be like super cool, apparently, to just be like orphan child living in a giant house by
with
myself,
a horse on your porch.
waiting for my dad, the sea captain, to come home.
Yeah, that's right. Her
This
dad
is
was a sea
He
captain.
was like he was a sea captain, but she always called him like a king, like a South Sea Island king or something like that.
South
Like, she was
Seas.
like,
That's right.
yeah, like he was off sailing the South Seas and he was a king
Mhm.
and he was a captain of the ship. And like, I just thought that was the coolest thing. And like the neighborhood kid's like mother who was just like, "You can't live home alone." And she was like, "Yes, I can." And she's like, "How are you going to clean your house?" And she's like, "I'm going to slap these sponges to my feet and skate around the kitchen." And I was like, yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
That is exactly how this works. Like,
Exactly.
I loved Pippi Longstocking.
Exactly.
It was so good. All right. That brings us to the end of the episode. Hopefully, your TBR, I know always mine, your TBR and the shelves of some kids in your lives just got a little bit bigger
For sure.
with some amazing books.
Yeah.
And also, we brought up a lot of books that you can't have. They're discontinued.
I know.
You can't buy that anymore.
Sorry about that.
Sorry about that. But there were lots of other good ones
Yes.
in there. All right. So, did a book from this episode instantly become a must buy? You're always in good company there. So many good books out there. And this episode features some of our favorite books from when we were children, as well as some of our favorite books that we've read to children in our lives. And you can get your hands on them through our bookshop.org storefront. And as a bonus, every purchase supports independent bookstores, which we love so much. We love a good indie bookstore. We love to support them any way we can. And this is one really quick and easy way to do so. You can shop all of the books we mentioned, except for those ones that are no longer available. All the books that are currently available on bookshop.org/shop/retr-book club, or you can head to the link tree that is in our bio on literally all of our social media and tap straight into the shop, because we want to shop smart, shop indie, and read recklessly. Oh yeah.
So until next time, keep reading.
Keep exploring.
And pack some snacks.